The Spy Who Loved Me was released in 1977, and after the disappointing response to The Man with the Golden Gun, producer Albert Broccoli was out to make amends and show audiences that nobody does it better. When English and Russian nuclear submarines are hijacked using a secret tracking system, the East and West join forces to send James Bond and Major Anya Amasova on a mission to find it. Together they follow a trail through Egypt and Sardinia to shipping magnate Karl Stromberg, who plans to trigger a global war and bring about a new civilization under the sea. Pre-production of the film was plagued by legal problems. Co-producer Harry Saltzman was broke due to failed investments and was left with no other choice than to sell his half of the Bond franchise. An idea to revive Blofeld and Spectre in the original script was dropped after Kevin McClory showed his face once more to issue an injunction against Eon. Even securing a director was awkward, with first choice Guy Hamilton dropping out. Eon quickly turned to director Lewis Gilbert instead. Arguably, this troublesome star only left the cast and crew even more determined to make something special. The Spy Who Loved Me has since come to be remembered as one of the best Bond films of them all. It's the quintessential 007 outing. Everything flows, everything works, everything seems so familiar. A large craft consuming smaller enemy craft? Check. A megalomaniacal villain who does a lot of sitting whilst trying to ignite World War III? Check. A massive lair to house a large-scale battle? Check. Wait a minute, who directed You Only Live Twice again? Ah, well, that makes sense. The resemblance to You Only Live Twice is certainly not a bad thing. Unlike Connery, Roger Moore was still interested in the Bond series, and more importantly, he and director Lewis Gilbert shared the same attitude towards the films. Both saw them as an opportunity for pure entertainment and outrageousness, so gone was the awkwardly dislikable Bond in the previous film. Instead, The Spy Who Loved Me features a much more solid 007, made more charming and playful to suit Roger Moore's strengths. That's not to say he's treated like a clown, not yet anyway. Again, like in You Only Live Twice, James Bond's history in the Royal Navy as commander is focused upon. And finally, after 8 years, a fleeting reference is made to his marriage. It's small, but it's better than nothing.
Licensed to kill, and has done so on numerous occasions. Many lady friends, but married only once. Wife killed.
All right, you've made your point.
The tagline for The Spy Who Loved Me was, "The biggest, the best, it's Bond and beyond," and that approach is overwhelmingly apparent when watching. What makes the film work so well is its insistence to always better itself. Everything is cranked up to 11. A motorbike chase evolves into a car chase, then into a helicopter chase, but even that's not enough. As the Lotus dives into the ocean, the battle continues with underwater henchmen. Likewise, Bond's plan to blast his way into the missile control room can't be simple. Instead, a tense dismantling of a nuke's detonator is required, followed by a daring stunt to plant it and escape the explosion. Barbara Bach plays Agent Amasova with just the right amount of Russian severity, which juxtaposes with Bond perfectly.
Make no mistake, Mr. Bond. I want that microfilm, and I'm going to get it.
Unless I get it first.
The initial rivalry and later partnership allows the two to play off each other. It's just a shame that Anya's competence isn't upheld throughout the film. For the climax, she's left purely as bait for Bond to save. Even worse is the squander of her backstory. After she learns Bond killed her partner only 3 weeks earlier, she threatens,
When this mission is over, I will kill you.
Nothing interesting comes from it, however. A few glares later, and it's the typical swoon and fall into his arms. The Spy Who Loved Me is a real cinematic experience, thanks to the use of the widescreen 2.35:1 aspect ratio, as seen in the Bond films of the late 60s. Ken Adams' set design also helped. The Liparus tanker interior, for example, required building one of the biggest silent stages in the world, now known as the 007 stage. The film wastes no time in presenting spectacular sequences. Rick Sylvester's base jump kicks off the adventure in heart-stopping silence. The Pyramid's light show with henchman duels is also a highlight. The mixture of dramatic angles and shadows alongside an over-the-top score is reminiscent of early Universal horror movies. The influence of those classic monsters such as Frankenstein, the Mummy and Dracula is undeniable. Speaking of which, Jaws steals the show when it comes to the villains. Stromberg is basically a watered-down Blofeld with no real on-screen presence. Jaws, on the other hand, has turned into an iconic figure. The pain Richard Keel went through wearing those horrible teeth certainly wasn't in vain. Not much has to be said about the theme song, apart from the fact that Carly Simon's Nobody Does It Better is pretty much perfect, and probably my favourite of them all. Albert Broccoli was keen to make the lavish budget of $14 million visible on screen, and the results show. The film was a massive hit, earning almost double that of The Man with the Golden Gun. It ranks highly as people's favourite, including Roger Moore himself. Though Eon had planned for the next instalment being For Your Eyes Only, the success of a certain space opera would change Bond's future.
Message received. We are waiting. Over and out.
I could have used a little more cowbell. So, I'm telling you, fellas, you're gonna want that cowbell on the track. I got a fever, and the only prescription is more cowbell.